Hi everyone, welcome back for another session today. We're going to continue to move forward and install one of our last structures and elements here. We're going to create our fence and wall along the front yard. So we're going to move along by creating a new layer. As you can see, when you start to have more than 5 or 6 layers here, there's going to be this left and right arrow, so you can have as many layers as you want, but this can just kind of scroll to the left and the right to find the rest of them if you have more than a few. So still click on existing layer, right click, add new layer. Let's call this front fence. Okay. Now before we go ahead and start, this is going to be a good time to show you how to improve your performance, because we're not dealing with our plants yet, and we know our house isn't complete, so we don't need to have these plants shown in the front and the back of the house. So to improve the performance of my computer and yours at any time, we're going to select our plants, and you can find out what layer they're on by going to the details on your property detail. It says layer all plants. You can see how I can click on another tree and it'll say layer all plants here. So I'm going to find my all plants layer, which is right here down the bottom. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to hide all plants, and there you go. Now my plants are gone, and it'll just make it a little bit easier to move forward now for right now. Alright, so now before we do anything, let's make sure we get back to our front wall layer. Front fence, here we go. So now it's selected. So let's go to plan view and let's move our layers over to the right, scroll to the right, go back to the beginning of the tutorial here. We have our trusty plan layer. Right click on that, show plan. Okay, so as you can see on our plan, there is this fence, this wall here with columns. You can see my cursor moving along this front yard, right? It goes all the way to the front. So we're going to build that because that's really going to complete our property here. So now we've turned the plan layer on. Let's scroll back to the left now and make sure we're always back on that right layer, front fence. And what we're going to do is start by creating a base layer, which is that base wall. That's where you're going to install your fence and your columns every so many feet. So we're going to go up to our building ribbon, select wall, of course, and basically start by just tracing. Let's start by tracing this front section here, okay? Because we don't have to stop and brake for the driveway, so this is a good start, right? This whole front section. So let's left click. Let's make sure our snapping tool is on. And we're going to change our point type. We don't want a curve, we want an angle. Alright, let's stop at our first left turn. Continue down here. You can hold the space bar again to make sure you get that right angle, the 90 degree. And right click. Alright, so there's our wall. Let's go down to perspective here and see what we have going on. So as you can see, it came in a bit tall. Zoom to and see what we have going on here. Alright, now with the wall selected, what we're going to do is change our height first and foremost. We're going to change it to, I don't know, say 1 foot 6 inches. Okay, it's a good start. Okay, so now we can see our wall changed. We're going to change the width to about a 2-foot base. Now it's 1. So again, the whole wall changed, as you can see. And we're going to pick a different material, just something that maybe matches the house a little better. So click on your wall material, the icon here, and scroll through a little ways here and see if we can find something to match the house a little bit better, shall we? There's so many to choose from, which is really great. Alright. Here we go. Let's try a dry stacked rust color, mixed stone. Okay, this is a great one. So add to scene. Alright, now you can see our whole wall's changed, and you can see how that blends with the wall better. It may even be the same material. Alright, next, now we're going to install our columns. To start building our columns, what we're going to want to show you real quick is go back into plan view, and you can see how, once again, we've traced using our plan our wall footprint, and it worked perfectly. And now if you can see these squares, this is where you're going to want to place your columns, and it's great that we already had our plan there, so it'll be a lot easier to place. You don't really have to measure because you know that, because this is where they are scaled, we can just keep placing, copy and paste them along here, right? So we're going to go back into perspective, and we're going to make sure that our grid is on here, and you're going to want to make sure that your grid is set to the 1 foot spacing. This is great because we know we're going to want a 2 foot column. So all we're going to have to do with our snap tool is just click anywhere on the grid and go 2 feet, and as simple as that. And we know it's 2 feet because our grid is spaced there. Works out perfect. So let's start by going to wall. Let's click here, and we're going to measure 2 foot mark. You can see that right there. It's zoom 2. Alright, so now we have our square. And you can see the width is already set at 2 because our wall previously was set to 2, so it mimics that, which is perfect. We're going to change the height now to about 3'8". And of course, your wall can be as tall as you'd like it. This is just kind of the dimensions that I'm working off of. We're also going to add a cap now. Any cap will do for right now. Just want to get that cap look in there, okay? You can go back and change the color. Let's go back up to wall details. Now, what we're also going to do is, if you see, we need to elevate our column here so it's on top of our wall. So if we zoom to, you can see that's inside our wall, right? So what we're going to do is, if you click on the existing wall, it's going to tell you the height is 1'6", okay? Now, if you click back in your column, you know that our elevation is at 0. It's on ground plane. Now, we're simply going to change the elevation to 1'6", and we're going to turn off auto elevate now. So every time I move this, it's going to always stay at 1'6", which is really important because if you kept auto elevate on, every time I moved this, it would try to get back to this ground layer at 0. All right? So it's just going to help you in the future, especially with copying and pasting. But because of our grid and our snap tool, we know that it's going to always snap right to the grid and fit on top of our wall there. All right? So let's go now and go back into plan view and copy and paste. Alright. So here's our column that we've created, and we can just simply use our arrow keys to go left and right. Let's start by scrolling over to the beginning of our wall. Go back up here. Alright, so here's our first column. Now what we're going to want to do is copy, paste. You can see how I created another wall for a column. And we're just going to scroll that down to the corner here, right? Copy, paste. Here's another one. We're going to go over, and what you're going to want to do is just place them right over our plan. Copy, paste. Right down the line here. Pretty simple, right? Pretty easy way of doing it, I think. Alright, let's do one more here. Okay, so now what you would do is just continue this down to create your wall here with their columns. Perspective view, let's check out what we've done. Zoom 2. Oh man, see how cool that looks? So you can continue this all the way down the wall. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I want to show you how to install your fence now. This is the cool part. So, what we're going to do is go back into our plan view one more time. And now we know we want our fence, which is going to be mimic like a wrought iron look. Okay, so we're back still in our ribbon tab. We're going to go to fences and gates. Click on your fence. Now, just start right in the middle of your column. And you're going to want to, and now you can even turn your snap tool back on, because you know that this is a 2 foot wide, so you're just going to snap right to the middle of your wall, that base wall that we made. So left click, and you can see how it's going to hold that line right down the middle, right into the middle of your column, right? And keep going down the line. Simple as that. So just go right past this first column that we made, or in your case, you can keep going further if you continued your columns. Right click. And now we have a fence. Let's go back into perspective view and see what we did. Alright, so we know it worked, as you can see, but that's not quite the look that we're going for. So we're gonna edit our fence, okay? We're gonna first start off by going to fence style. This icon right here under fence properties, and we're gonna change it to square. Add to scene. You can see that change right in front of you, as so. Now the next thing we're going to do is change our fence material. We're going to change it to a black color. Black vinyl works fine. Or let's use paint, blacktop paint. Add to scene. So now we have our black fence here. Now under fence detail we have ball, post cap, beveled standard, flat fence board. Let's check out some more post caps. We can add a Gothic cap, add to scene. Another great way of, another customizing your fence to a look that you prefer. Okay, make sure your fence is selected. Let's check out fence options here. We're going to do rail at front. Make sure you click off rail at front. And we're going to start by adjusting our heights and widths here to get the look that we want. We're going to lower our post height, as so. Our board width is going to get a little bit smaller, but first we're going to change our post space. Post spacing. We're going to change that to about 40 feet or so. And that's going to kind of adjust the look of our post. And you can see how it sort of disappeared because we placed it so far apart. Now, our board width, we're going to change to, let's start off by going 1 inch. You can see how small that got, right? Just like so. You can see how it's starting to take the kind of look of a, of a wrought iron fence here. Which is just another great way to accomplish that. And all you would have to do is continue your fence around the front of your property here, right along your driveway, and you can see how much more character that adds to your fence. Really great way. Alright, well, now that we've completed our fence, let's move on to adding some final elements. Once you trace the remaining wall on your plan view, add the rest of your columns by copying and pasting, you can complete this look, and you'll have a nice border around the front of your yard. Okay, so that seems to be one of our last elements of the incremental series here. Next up, we're going to show you how to add some finishing touches to your property, like pergolas, pots, decking, furniture. And right after we do that, we're going to get into creating and uploading an animation. Alright guys, thanks.